Part 1. I married the wrong brother, and I can't undo it now. They say love is a choice. But what if you chose too early? Too fast? Before you even knew who you really were? What if you said yes to the wrong person and realized it only when it was too late? My name is Evan Lawrence. I'm 30 years old, and I've been married for 3 years. To a man everyone thinks is perfect, smart, ambitious, polished. His name is Daniel. He's the type of guy you'd see on a magazine cover. Tight haircut, navy suits, firm handshake, and a practice smile. He's a corporate lawyer. He wins cases, drinks scotch, and plans everything 5 steps ahead. Our wedding was featured in Groom and Style magazine. Our house is in a quiet part of Connecticut. White pillars, polished wood, and not a hair out of place. From the outside, it looks like the dream, but behind the picture frames and folded linens is a secret I've been choking on for years. Because the person I fell for, the one who makes my heart do that awful, beautiful thing, isn't my husband. It's his younger brother. His name is Caleb, and he's everything Daniel isn't. Messy, unfiltered, tattooed arms, permanent 5 o'clock shadow, and a tendency to say exactly what's on his mind. He's a photographer, drives a rusted Jeep, lives out a studio apartment in Brooklyn that smells like espresso and dust. And the first time I met him, I knew, God help me, I knew. I remember the moment like a scar. It was our engagement dinner. Daniel's parents hosted it in their lakeside home. Catered food, string quartet, champagne glasses taller than my sense of self-worth. I was nervous, fidgeting with the button on my blazer, when Daniel leaned in and whispered, "My brother's flying in from Argentina. He hasn't met you yet." I nodded, trying to smile. 10 minutes later, I looked up, and there he was. Boots instead of dress shoes, a black Henley instead of a tie, dark eyes that scanned the room like he was already over it. He didn't walk in, he strode, like nothing scared him, like he didn't belong and didn't care. Daniel stood. "Caleb, this is Evan." And for the briefest second, his eyes met mine, and something shifted. I felt it in my chest, like an elevator dropping, like a memory trying to form itself before it even existed. He gave me this look, 1 part curiosity, 1 part challenge. "Hey," he said simply. I swallowed. "Hi." Just that, and everything changed. You probably think I'm awful already, but let me be clear. I didn't fall in love that night. It took time, months, years even, but that night I noticed, and I never stopped noticing. Daniel and I got married 6 months later. He planned every detail, from the guest list to the boutonniere color to the playlist for cocktail hour. I smiled through all of it, told myself I was lucky, but when I stood at the altar and caught Caleb's eyes in the crowd, there was this strange, aching silence inside me, like some part of me knew I was standing in the wrong story. For the first year, I pushed it down, buried it under routines. Daniel traveled for work a lot, which meant I spent a lot of weekends alone, except for the ones when Caleb came to visit, when he'd crash at our place, sleep on the couch, stay up late editing photos with his music too loud. He never flirted, never crossed any lines, but sometimes he'd look at me a second too long, or ask a question that felt too sharp. One night, we were both in the kitchen. It was late. Daniel was out of town. I was making tea. He was heating up leftover pizza. He leaned against the counter. "You happy?" he asked out of nowhere. I turned. "What?" With Daniel. "You happy?" I blinked. "That's a weird question." He shrugged. "Maybe, but is the answer easy?" I stared at him and didn't respond. He didn't press, just nodded once and walked away. It got worse after that, because once you admit something's not right, you start seeing everything. The way Daniel never asked how my day was, the way we slept with a pillow wall between us, the way silence filled every space we were in, not the comfortable kind, the heavy kind. Meanwhile, Caleb kept showing up for family birthdays, barbecues, casual weekends. He started remembering how I take my coffee, started texting me playlists, started calling me Ev like it meant something only we understood. He'd say things like, "You ever wonder what it would be like if you'd met someone else first?" And I pretend not to understand, because if I did, if I said it back, the dam would break. And then it did. It was our second anniversary. Daniel had to fly to Boston for a case. Caleb stopped by to return a lens he'd borrowed. It was raining. I let him in. He shook off the water from his jacket. "You look tired," he said. I nodded. "Didn't sleep?" He stared at me for a second too long. "You okay, Evan?" I felt my chest tighten. I opened my mouth, closed it, opened it again. And what came out wasn't words. It was a sound. A broken, helpless sound. The kind you make when you've been silent for too long. Caleb stepped closer. "Hey, what's wrong?" And before I could stop myself, I whispered, "I don't love him." Silence. He didn't flinch, didn't smirk, didn't say I knew it. He just said, "Then who do you love?" And I couldn't lie anymore. "You." The kiss wasn't planned. It wasn't even romantic. It was desperate, shaky, unforgivable. But God, it was real. It only lasted seconds. But it felt like a confession carved into skin. And when we pulled away, the guilt came crashing in. I stepped back. This was a mistake. He nodded, but his eyes said otherwise. "You're not the only one who's been hiding." He left that night. Didn't text. Didn't call. And I sat on the kitchen floor for hours, staring at the door, because I knew what I'd done. I hadn't just crossed a line. I'd shattered the entire frame. Daniel came home the next day, kissed my cheek, told me about his flight. I smiled, pretended, but inside, something was gone. Some thread had snapped, and I couldn't tie it back together, because you can't unfeel the truth. So here I am, in this perfect house, with the perfect man, living the perfect lie, while the only person I want is the one I can never have, his brother, Caleb. And now, I have to decide, do I stay in the life I built, or risk everything for the love I never saw coming? What would you do if your heart belonged to the wrong person? Comment below. I read everyone. Like, share, and subscribe to follow this forbidden story in part 2. Because a secret, it won't stay buried for long. Part 2. I tried to stop seeing him, but he wouldn't let me go. I told myself it was over, that what happened in the kitchen was a slip, a storm, a one-time thing. But lies sound better in your head than they do in your chest, because the truth didn't go anywhere. It just sat inside me, quiet, waiting. And the worst part? So, did he? Caleb didn't reach out. Not at first. No texts, no calls, not even a like on Instagram. I figured he regretted it. Hoped he did. But every time I heard a knock on the door, my heart jumped. And every time it wasn't him, it sank. Daniel noticed something was off. "Everything good?" he asked over dinner one night. I nodded too fast, too practiced. "Yeah, work's been crazy." He shrugged, sipping wine. "Let me know if you need a weekend away or something. You've been weird lately." Weird. That's what I was now. Weird. Not distant. Not guilty. Just off. He had no idea what I was carrying. And I hated how easy it was to hide. I tried to fill the days. Volunteered to help plan a charity auction. Started running again. Tried journaling like my therapist once suggested. But nothing drowned the voice in my head that whispered, "You want to see him again." And worse, he wants to see you too. It happened 2 weeks later. A Sunday afternoon. Cloudy. Still, I was in the produce section of the local market, comparing avocados of all things, when I felt it. That flicker. That burn. I looked up, and there he was. Caleb. Same black boots. Gray hoodie. Hair messier than usual. He froze when he saw me. We stared at each other like strangers who remembered too much. Neither of us spoke. Not until he walked over, slow and hesitant. "You avoiding me?" he asked. I looked away. "I thought you were avoiding me." He exhaled a quiet laugh. Guess we're both cowards, huh? Silence stretched between us. Why are you here? I asked. He held up a bottle of sriracha. Craving noodles. Didn't expect to find guilt in aisle 4. I almost smiled. Almost. But the ache in my stomach was louder. I shouldn't have kissed you, I said, voice low. He nodded, but didn't agree. Instead, he asked, did it mean nothing to you? I stared at the floor. It meant everything. That's the problem. He took a step closer. I haven't stopped thinking about you, Evan. I clenched my jaw. This isn't fair. Not to Daniel. Not to you. What about you, he asked. Don't you get be considered? I looked at him, and for a second, I wanted to say yes. God, I wanted to say yes. But instead, I walked away. Fast. Like running could fix it. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay next to Daniel, staring at the ceiling, listening to the sound of his breath. Steady, oblivious. And all I could think was, I'm breaking something he doesn't even know is broken. I made a decision the next morning. Cold, clean, final. I blocked Caleb's number, muted his socials, told Daniel I wanted to visit my parents for a week. Alone, he raised an eyebrow. Everything okay? I nodded. Yeah, just need space. Time to think. He kissed my forehead. Take care of yourself, babe. And just like that, I was out the door. The drive upstate was gray and quiet. Trees whipping past like regrets. I didn't tell my parents the full reason I came. Just said I was processing some stuff. They nodded, didn't ask much. And for a few days, it worked. I read. I walked through old trails. I helped Mom make lasagna. I convinced myself that maybe this numbness was healing. But peace is a liar sometimes. Because on the 5th day, he found me. It was dusk. I was sitting on the porch, hoodie pulled tight, breath misting in the air. A car pulled up. I squinted. Rusty Jeep. My heart stuttered. He stepped out, hair windswept, eyes tired, holding nothing but keys and a storm. I stood slowly. Caleb, how did you? Your mom posted a photo of her lasagna on Facebook. I recognized the driveway. I almost laughed. You stalked my mom to find me? He shrugged. Desperate times. Silence. Then, please don't tell me to leave, he said quietly. I didn't, because I couldn't, because some part of me had been waiting for this. We didn't kiss that night. We just sat, side by side, on a porch that smelled like firewood and memory. I shouldn't be here, he said eventually. I know. I told myself I'd move on. So did I. I tried. Same. And then he looked at me. Tell me to stop loving you, Evan. And I swear I'll try harder. I looked away, because I couldn't say it, because it would have been a lie. We stayed like that until the stars came out. He drove off just before midnight. Didn't ask to come inside. Didn't ask for anything. Just said, I'm not sorry I kissed you, but I am sorry you feel like you have to forget it. Then he was gone. Again. I went back home the next day. Back to Daniel. Back to routine. But something had changed. Not between us. Between me and the lie I'd been living. It didn't feel quiet anymore. It felt like a scream in slow motion. One night, I asked Daniel a question. What would you do if you found out I wasn't who you thought I was? He looked confused. What are you talking about? Just hypothetically, would you want to know the truth? Even if it hurt? He frowned. I don't know. Depends on the truth. Then he smiled. But I trust you. And just like that, I wanted to cry. Because that's the cruelest part. He wasn't a villain. He wasn't cruel. He was just not mine. Not the one I loved. So now I'm stuck. Caught between the man I married and the man who feels like home. Between what's right and what's real. And every day that I stay, I'm choosing a lie over love. But how do you leave a life that looks so good on paper? How do you break someone when they've only ever tried to love you right? I don't have the answer. Not yet, but I feel the clock ticking. Feel the storm rising. Because secrets don't stay buried forever. especially not the kind that wear someone else's face. Have you ever loved the wrong person and the right one at the same time? Let me know in the comments. And stick around for part 3. Part 3. I couldn't look my husband in the eye anymore. Some lies are loud, explosive, messy. Others, they're quiet. They tiptoe in, curl up behind your ribs, and settle in like they belong there. That's the kind I was living with. The kind that didn't scream, but whispered in every room. The kind that made dinner feel heavy and silence feel suspicious. I couldn't look Daniel in the eye anymore. Not for long. Not without my throat tightening. Not without remembering how he smiled when he brought me coffee that morning, and how all I could think about was someone else's voice, someone else's hands, someone else's mouth. Every time Caleb texted me, I deleted it. Every time he called, I didn't pick up, but not because I didn't want to, because I wanted it too much, because my body knew something my mind was still fighting, that what happened between us wasn't just wrong, it was real. Daniel noticed. "You've been off," he said one night, sliding into bed beside me. I stared at the ceiling, just tired. He paused. "You still happy with me?" The question hit harder than it should have. I turned to face him, heart thudding. "Why would you ask that?" He shrugged. "I don't know. I miss how we used to be." I wanted to tell him we were never really like that he saw something that wasn't there. But all I said was, "I'm sorry," and then I turned away. A few days later, I saw Caleb again. Not by accident this time. He'd left something at my parents' place, said he was passing through town and needed to grab it. He asked if I could meet him halfway. Neutral ground, just a parking lot outside a diner on Route 9. I said yes. Of course I said yes. Because I'm weak. Because I wanted to see his face again, even if it cracked me open. He was already there when I pulled up, leaning against the Jeep, wearing a denim jacket and that expression. Half curious, half cautious. I parked, got out. We didn't move toward each other, just stood there, space between us like a drawn line. "Hey," he said. "Hey." He held up the camera bag. Wasn't sure if I'd need this again. I nodded. "You still shooting?" He shrugged. "Trying. Nothing's felt right lately." I knew that feeling too well. We stood in silence for a few seconds. Then I asked, "Why did you come, Caleb?" "Really?" He looked down at his boots. "Because I wanted to see if it still felt like something." I swallowed, and he looked up. "It does." I could have left. Should have, but instead, I stepped closer. "So now what?" He didn't blink. "I don't know, but pretend we don't feel this. It's killing me." I felt that in my bones. I can't do this behind his back. "I'm not asking you to," he said gently. I needed to see you. That's all." His voice cracked on the last word, and I hated that I loved him for it. We didn't kiss. We didn't touch. But God, it felt like we did. His eyes stayed on mine too long, and mine stayed too soft. He finally said, "I'll go," and he did, just like that. That night, I cried in the shower, not because of what I'd done, but because of what I wanted to do, because the guilt didn't cancel the desire. It just made it lonelier. I started noticing all the small cracks in my marriage, how Daniel only touched me when someone was watching, how his texts were always about errands, never emotions, how we hadn't really talked in months. I realized we'd built a house with no rooms in it, just walls, and I was suffocating between them. One night, we went out to dinner with friends. I sat next to Daniel, laughed at the right moments, sipped my wine. But every time someone asked about how we met, or what our secret to staying strong was, I felt like an actor, reciting lines from a play I never auditioned for. When we got home, Daniel collapsed on the couch. "You're quiet tonight," he said. "Just tired." "You've been just tired a lot lately." I opened my mouth, but nothing came out, because what was I supposed to say? "Sorry, babe, I'm in love with your brother?" "Sorry, I kissed him in our kitchen and haven't stopped replaying it since. No words felt safe, so I said none and went to bed alone. The next morning, I found a letter on my nightstand in Daniel's handwriting. Evan, I don't know what's going on, but I know something's off, and it's not just work stress. If you're unhappy, tell me, please. I don't want to lose you without understanding what I did wrong. I love you. That hasn't changed. Daniel, that letter ruined me because he didn't deserve this. Not him. And the fact that I couldn't love him back the way he wanted, that was the worst betrayal of all. I sat with it for hours, then texted Caleb. We can't keep doing this. It has to stop. For good. He replied, I know. I'm sorry. I'll disappear if that's what you need. And he did. No more calls. No more visits. No more flickers of hope. Just silence, like a punishment I deserved. But love doesn't vanish just because you tell it to. It hides. It waits. It whispers when everything else is quiet. And when it's real, it never really lets you go. So now I'm standing at a crossroads. One road is easy, expected, safe. The other is messy, uncertain, but honest. And the longer I wait, the louder my heart gets. Have you ever stayed just because it was easier than leaving? Let me know in the comments. And don't miss part 4, the moment everything starts to unravel. Part 4, he found out the truth, and nothing was the same after. Secrets don't stay secrets forever. You can hide them behind smiles, bury them under routines, but eventually they crawl out. They find cracks in your voice, in your eyes, in the space between your words. And the worst ones, the ones that matter, they explode when you least expect them to. It started with a question I wasn't ready for. A random Tuesday. Rainy, gray. I was folding laundry when Daniel walked in, holding his phone. Why did Caleb unfollow you? I froze. What? He turned the screen toward me. Instagram. My profile. One less follower. I noticed last night, he said. Thought maybe it was a glitch. I tried to smile. Failed. Maybe he's just off social media. Daniel raised an eyebrow. He posted this morning. He tossed the phone onto the couch. Just thought it was weird. You guys always got along. I shrugged. People drift. Since when? I didn't answer. Because I didn't have a lie that felt good in my mouth. Later that night, he asked again, this time quieter. Did something happen between you and my brother? I looked up from my book. Heart pounding. What do you mean? Exactly what I said. Did something happen? He wasn't angry. Not yet. Just curious. But the kind of curious that meant he already knew something. I shut the book, stood slowly. No, nothing happened. A beat passed. Okay, he said, but his eyes didn't believe me. The air changed after that. He didn't yell, didn't accuse, but he started noticing things. The way I flinched when Caleb's name came up. The way I never brought him up anymore. The way silence lingered a little too long after every question. Daniel wasn't stupid. He was sharp, surgical. He just didn't want the answer. Until one night, he did. We were at his firm's winter gala. Suit, tie, painted smiles. He held my hand the whole night. Tight, possessive, but his smile didn't reach his eyes. Back at the house, I started unbuttoning my shirt, and he spoke. Tell me the truth, Evan. I turned. About what? You and Caleb. My stomach dropped. He stepped closer. I've been watching you. I'm not blind. I swallowed hard. There's nothing to tell. Bullshit, he snapped. You're not even good at hiding it anymore. Silence. Then, did you cheat on me? My mouth opened, but the words stuck. He stepped back. Oh my God. I didn't sleep with him. I said quickly. Daniel's eyes burned. But something happened, didn't it? A pause. A long, horrible pause. Then I nodded. Once. And everything cracked. He didn't yell, didn't scream or throw anything. He just sat on the edge of the bed and looked like someone had stolen the air out of him. How long? He asked. It was one kiss, I said. He laughed. Bitter. There's no such thing as just one kiss. I sat down inches from him. I'm sorry. Are you? He asked, voice shaking. Or are you just sorry I found out? I couldn't answer that, because the truth, both were true. That night, he didn't sleep next to me. He took a blanket and went downstairs, slammed the guest room door, and I lay there, staring into the dark, wondering when exactly everything started to die. The next morning, he was gone. No note, no goodbye, just an empty space where his keys used to be, and silence. Heavy, endless silence. I didn't hear from him for 3 days. I called, texted, no response. Until a message came at 3:17 a.m. I'm staying at a hotel. I don't know when I'm coming back. I need space. I typed a dozen replies. Deleted every one. Because what was I supposed to say? Come home. I still love you? I never meant for this to happen. All lies, or half-truths, and nothing he deserved. On day 5, I got a knock at the door. I opened it, and it was Caleb. His face said it all. You know, he asked. I nodded. Yeah. He stepped inside, closed the door behind him. I didn't want it to happen like this. Neither did I. I didn't want to hurt him. Too late. I whispered. We sat in the living room, silent. I think he hates us, I said. Caleb shook his head. He doesn't hate you. He's just shattered. I looked at him. Are we awful people? He didn't answer, just stared at the wall. And that silence said everything. We didn't kiss, didn't touch, didn't even sit close. Because whatever we were, it wasn't clean anymore. It wasn't thrilling. It was wreckage. It was heartbreak in slow motion. Before he left, Caleb turned to me. I never meant to fall in love with you. I nodded. Me neither. And just like that, he walked out the door. And I let him, because what else was there to do? Now I'm alone. The house is too quiet. The coffee's too bitter. And the mirror doesn't feel kind anymore. I thought secrets were the hardest part. But the truth? It's so much worse. Daniel still hasn't come back. And I don't know if he ever will. All I know is I miss him. I miss Caleb. I miss a version of myself I don't think I'll ever get back. Have you ever told the truth and wish you hadn't? Let me know in the comments. And stay with me for part 5, where the fallout really begins. Part 5, my husband came back, but not for me. He came back 5 days later, not with flowers, not with apologies, just keys in the lock, footsteps in the hall, and a face I barely recognized. Daniel, my husband, the man I broke. He didn't say anything at first, just walked into the kitchen, poured himself a glass of water, and leaned against the counter like a stranger. I stood in the doorway, barefoot, heart in pieces. You're back, I said. He nodded, just to pack some things. That sentence, it knocked the air out of me. Some things, not us, not home, just items, objects, whatever was left. I took a step forward. Daniel, he held up his hand. Please don't. His voice cracked halfway through, not from rage, from restraint. He still wasn't yelling. He was breaking, quietly, and somehow that hurt worse. He moved through the house like a ghost, opening drawers, folding clothes, avoiding my eyes. I booked a sublet for a few months, he said. Where? Downtown. Silence. Then he added, I told my boss I needed some personal leave. I nodded. That was his version of a breakdown. Still neat, still efficient, still so... Daniel. I stood by the doorway as he zipped up a suitcase. I never wanted to hurt you. I know, he said, eyes still focused on zipper. I didn't plan it. I didn't expect it. I know that too. He finally looked at me. But that doesn't make it okay. We stood in the bedroom, the one we used to share, where we watched movies under the covers, where we planned vacations and whispered dreams. Now it felt like a museum, frozen, full of things we used to be. I keep replaying it, Daniel said suddenly. What? The way you flinched every time I touched you. The way you smiled at your phone, but never let me see the screen. The way my own brother looked at you like he already knew your skin. I swallowed hard. There was only one kiss. Don't insult me, he whispered. I stepped closer. One last chance. Do you still love me? His jaw clenched. That's the worst part. Pause. I do. He finished packing, rolled the suitcase down the hallway, stopped by the front door. I'm not filing for divorce. Not yet. I need time. I nodded, tears pushing against my eyes. Can I call you? He hesitated. Maybe. And then he left. Door closed, and I slid down to the floor where everything else had already fallen. The days after were a blur. Empty closet, cold bed, muted phone. Every sound in the house echoed now. His absence wasn't just a feeling. It was a presence. Loud, cruel, unbearable. I avoided Caleb, blocked his number again. Not out of hate, out of guilt. Because the closer I got to him, the further I drifted from the man I married, and I couldn't stomach the space I created. A week later, I ran into Caleb again, by accident, or fate. I don't even know anymore. I was walking near the lake, trying to breathe, trying to not think. He was sitting on the bench, alone, sketchbook in hand. I froze. He looked up, eyes bloodshot. We stared at each other, and in that second, everything came rushing back. I didn't think I'd see you again, he said quietly. I sat down, not too close. I wasn't going to stop, but then Daniel came back, packed a suitcase. He nodded slowly. Did he say anything about me? I shook my head. He couldn't. Caleb exhaled deeply. I haven't forgiven myself. You shouldn't have to, I said. Yes, I should. We both stared out at the water. Still, endless, just like the silence between us. I didn't just fall for you, Evan, he said. I crashed. I shattered. And I'd do it again. I looked at him, tired, honest, real. And for the first time in days, I let myself feel it. All of it. I'm not ready. I whispered. I know. I don't know what I want. I do, he said gently, then stood and walked away. No kiss, no pressure, just space, which was in its own way love. I went back home, to the empty hallway, the half-made bed, the stillness. I lay on the couch that night and replayed every moment of the past month. The kiss, the guilt, the break, and finally, the quiet truth. I loved two people, but I didn't know if either one still belonged to me. The next morning, I opened the guest room door, stood there in the doorway, blinking at the mess we left, pillows out of place, blanket half folded, and Daniel's note sitting on the nightstand. I picked it up with shaking hands. I don't know if I'll ever come back, but I do know this. You need to figure out what love means to you, not what it looks like, not what other people expect, but what it feels like when no one's watching. Daniel. I sat on the edge of the bed and cried because I had no idea what love meant anymore. But I knew what it didn't feel like. It didn't feel like pretending. It didn't feel like shame. And it didn't feel like silence. So now, I'm facing something harder than heartbreak. A choice to live in truth or keep performing a version of myself I don't recognize anymore. And I don't know which path I'll take yet. But for the first time in weeks, I'm not numb. I feel everything, and maybe that's where it begins. Have you ever hurt someone just by choosing your own heart? Tell me in the comments, and get ready for part 6, where everything finally comes to light. Part 6. He asked me one question, and I couldn't lie anymore. Some questions feel like punches, others feel like knives, but the worst ones, they feel like mirrors, because they show you what you've been avoiding, and once the words are out, you can't hide from them. It had been 2 weeks since Daniel left. 12 days of silence. 12 nights without his voice in the other room. Without the sound of his toothbrush in the morning. Without the weight of his hand on my back at 3 a.m. I kept expecting him to walk through the door. He didn't, but someone else did. It was Saturday. I was half-dressed, barely awake, when the knock came. I opened the door, and there he was, Daniel, clean-shaven, eyes hollow, suit slightly wrinkled. He looked like he hadn't slept. I stood frozen. "I didn't know if I should come," he said. "You're here." He nodded. "I need to ask you something, and I need the truth this time." We sat at the kitchen table, across from each other, same chairs we used to laugh in, same wood stained with old wine and old memories. He looked down for a long time, then back up and asked, "If I hadn't found out, would you have kept it going?" The air shattered. It was the one question I hadn't prepared for, the one truth I'd never wanted to face. I looked at him, the man I married, and I said the only thing I could. "Yes." Silence. He blinked, once, twice, then he nodded, not in agreement, in resignation. "I thought so. I didn't want to hurt you," I whispered. "But you did," he said. He leaned back in the chair, ran a hand over his face. "Do you love him?" That one made me flinch, because there it was again, another truth, another weight I'd carried in secret. I nodded, eyes glassy. "I think I do." He closed his eyes, and when he opened them, tears, quiet, still. "I was going to ask if we could try again," he said, "if we could start over." My throat tightened, "But I think I already know your answer." I reached across the table. He didn't move. "Daniel," he stood up. "I don't hate you, Evan. That's the problem." Pause. "I just don't recognize you anymore." He walked to the door, stopped with his hand on the knob. "I loved you enough to stay. Even when things got quiet. Even when you drifted. I thought we were just tired. I thought we'd find our way back." A long, broken breath. "But maybe you were already somewhere else." And then he left, this time for real. I didn't chase him, because some endings don't need a door slammed. They just need honesty, and mine had finally arrived. That night, I stared at my reflection for hours. My eyes were red, my skin pale, but my face, it was bare. No more pretending, no more roles. Just me, raw, alone, free. I texted Caleb, "Can we talk?" He replied instantly, "Always." We met in the same place we'd kissed for the first time, my old apartment hallway, back before we knew what we were doing. He stood by the elevator, hands in his jacket, eyes careful. "You okay?" he asked. I shook my head. "No, but I'm finally honest." He nodded, didn't smile. "Is it over with him?" I hesitated. "It's broken, and I broke it." We walked around the block. Neither of us spoke for a long time. Then I said, "He asked if I loved you." Caleb glanced at me. "What did you say?" "The truth." His voice dropped. "And what's the truth?" I stopped walking, looked him right in the eye. "I don't just love you, Caleb. I think I was always meant to." It wasn't a dramatic kiss. It wasn't fireworks. It was soft, sad, real. His hand found mine, and for the first time in weeks, I exhaled. But love doesn't erase damage. It doesn't fix what you broke. It doesn't make betrayal disappear. It just asks you to be better next time. And that's what I wanted. Not a clean slate, not a perfect story, just better. We didn't move in together, didn't change our relationship status. We just started being real. Little texts, long walks, silent moments where nothing was said, but everything was understood. And that was more honest than anything I'd ever had before. People talk. My friends ask questions. My mom raised an eyebrow. My inbox was full of whispers. But I didn't care, because for the first time, I wasn't hiding. I was choosing. And even if that choice came late, it was mine. Have you ever told the truth, knowing it would destroy something, but save your soul? Drop your story in the comments. And stay close for part 7, where love finally meets consequence. Part 7, his family found out, and so did mine. There's a strange moment, right before everything goes public. It's not panic. not relief. It's stillness, like the quiet air before a thunderstorm. You know the sky is about to break. You just don't know where the lightning will land. Caleb's mom was the first to find out. She called him one morning, out of nowhere, said she heard something strange from a neighbor. Someone saw us at a cafe, said we looked closer than we should. Small town problems. Too many eyes, not enough distractions. What did you say? I asked him afterward. He was pale, pacing my kitchen. I didn't deny it, he said. I told her it was true. I blinked. You told her everything? Not everything, he said, voice low, but enough. I swallowed hard, and he looked at me like someone looking through a glass wall. She cried. I didn't know what to say. What do you say when your truth becomes someone else's grief? When the love that saved you is the same love that breaks someone else? He ran his hand through his hair. She said I humiliated the family, that I betrayed blood, that she didn't raise us to steal from each other. His jaw clenched. She said she didn't want to see me for a while. And that's when it hit me. This wasn't just our story anymore. It belonged to them too. To everyone we hurt by choosing ourselves. To everyone who thought they knew us. Until we made a choice they didn't understand. Later that night, it was my turn. My mom showed up, unannounced, hair pinned, hands tight. She stood in my doorway like she wasn't sure whether to hug me or slap me. Can we talk? She said. I nodded, stepped aside. She walked in slow, like the air might burn her. She sat down, and then she said it. Is it true? No name, no detail, but I knew what she meant. I sat down across from her, hands shaking. Yes, I whispered. Her mouth tightened. And Daniel, he knows. She flinched, pressed her lips together. And you left him? For Caleb. My throat felt like sandpaper. I didn't leave him for anyone. I left because I wasn't in love anymore. And I couldn't lie. She stared at me for a long time. Not angry, not shocked, just sad. Deep bone-level sad. You know I don't care that it's a man, she said. I care that it's his brother. I nodded. So do I? She sighed. I love Daniel like a son. I still do. I did too, I whispered. She stood, walked to the window, and said, I hope you're ready for what comes next. That night, I couldn't sleep. Caleb came over, held me on the couch, said nothing, and for the first time in days, I cried without holding back, because I finally understood something. When you stop pretending, you start bleeding. The next few days were a mess. Daniel's friends stopped texting. Family members sent thinking of you messages that weren't meant for me. I got side glances at the grocery store. Someone unfollowed me every hour. It was like watching your life shrink, pixel by pixel. And still, I didn't regret telling the truth, because even pain is better than pretending. One night, Daniel called, not to scream, not to fix anything, just to talk. I spoke to Mom, he said. I sat up straight. And she's more angry at you than at Caleb. Pause. Maybe because she expected better from you. I swallowed. That's fair. Silence. Then, I'm moving forward, he said. Not sure what that means yet, but I need to. I get that. And I don't forgive you. Not yet. Another pause. But I'm starting to understand. After we hung up, I sat in the dark, and I realized maybe forgiveness doesn't come all at once. Maybe it arrives in pieces, through every honest word, through every broken silence. And maybe healing starts the moment someone says, I don't forgive you, but I still see your heart. Caleb and I didn't go public. Not officially. No photos. No declarations. We weren't proud yet. Not because we were ashamed of each other, but because we knew the world wouldn't see the story the way we lived it. They'd see betrayal, lust, scandal, not two people who tried to ignore what they felt and failed. We took it slow. No labels, no promises, just quiet nights, shared meals, hands finding each other when the room got too quiet. Love, I learned, doesn't always need noise. Sometimes it just needs space to grow. But the questions kept coming. At work, at family dinners, in random DMs. Was it worth it? Would you do it again? How could you hurt someone like that? Here's my answer. Yes, not because it was clean, or easy, or fair, but because it was real. Because I've lived both ways now, in truth and in silence, and only one of them let me breathe. Have you ever chosen a hard truth over a comfortable lie? Drop your story in the comments. And don't miss part 8, the final chapter, when he finally faced me one last time. Part 8, when he finally faced me one last time. Part 8, when he finally faced me one last time. Some goodbyes are loud, screamed through slammed doors, written in text you never reread, burned into memory like a bad scar. But some goodbyes are soft. They don't break you. They free you. And when Daniel stood in front of me one last time, I didn't brace for impact. I just breathed. It had been a month since our last real conversation. No updates. No late-night messages. No surprise visits. I thought maybe that was it. Maybe we'd never speak again. Until he texted, "I'd like to talk. In person." And I knew this wasn't about fixing anything. It was about finishing something. We met at a coffee shop neither of us had ever been to. Neutral territory. A small place with fog windows and slow jazz playing just loud enough to keep eavesdroppers out. He was already there when I walked in. Button-down shirt. No tie. Eyes softer than I remembered. I sat across from him. Neither of us spoke for a while. Just two people, surrounded by steam and silence, trying to find the right beginning for the ending. He was the first to talk. "I'm not angry anymore." I looked at him carefully. "No." He shook his head. "I was, for a long time, not just about you and Caleb, but about how long I didn't see it, how long I let myself believe everything was fine." I nodded slowly. I think I believed that too, even when it wasn't. He took a sip of his coffee, then set it down gently. "I wanted to hate you. I tried to, but the more time passed, the more I realized something." "What?" He looked up. "You didn't betray me to hurt me. You betrayed me because you were already gone and didn't know how to say it." My throat tightened. "That doesn't make it okay." "I know," he said, "but it makes it human." A pause. Then he added, "I loved you. I still do, in a way, but it's different now." "Me too," I said. He smiled, just slightly. "I moved out of sublet. Got a new place, near the water." "That sounds like you." He laughed softly. "I even started dating again. Nothing serious. But I'm trying. I'm glad." And I meant it. Not in that fake, guilt-covered way people say it to feel less bad, but in a real way. A way that said, "I want your heart to heal, even if it has nothing to do with me." He leaned forward, elbows on the table. "Do you love him?" I didn't blink. "I do." He nodded. "Then I hope he never forgets what you gave up to be honest, what it cost you." "I hope I never forget either," I whispered. We didn't cry. Not this time. We just sat there, letting the air wrap around the last thread between us. And then he said it. "I forgive you." Just like that. No build-up, no grand music. Just 4 words that unlocked something in my chest. I wanted to thank him, but instead, I stood, walked around the table, and hugged him, not like lovers, not even like friends, but like someone who once held a piece of your soul and is finally ready to give it back. He left first. I watched him disappear into the crowd, back into his own life, and I didn't chase him, because this wasn't a love story anymore. It was a life story, and this chapter was closing. I went home that night, found Caleb on my porch, sitting with 2 coffees, and that nervous look he always wore when he wasn't sure if he was allowed to be happy. "You okay?" he asked. I nodded. "It's done." He stood. "Did he hate you?" "No," I said quietly. "He forgave me." Caleb didn't smile right away. He just looked at me, and something shifted. His shoulders dropped, his eyes softened, and I knew we weren't just starting something new, we were finally free to. I didn't move in with him the next day. We didn't post a couple photos, but we did wake up the next morning side by side. No guilt, no fear, just coffee and soft laughter and the sound of a future we didn't have to hide anymore. It wasn't perfect. Love never is. But it was ours, and it was honest, and that's more than I used to believe I deserved. So here's my question to you. Have you ever walked away from the safe thing to run toward the true thing? Have you ever hurt someone by being honest and still known it was the right choice? If you have, you're not alone. You're just human, and sometimes that's enough. Thank you for walking the story with me. If it made you feel something, drop your story in the comments. And remember, love isn't about what looks right. It's about what feels real, even if it costs everything.